He's Metz. He's Tass. It's the Metzger Tassoul Show.
All right, we are live. Mr. Tassoul, how are you? Can you hear us?
Oh, there you are. You're on mute.
Okay, you can hear me now.
I had you on mute. Yeah.
All right. So I want to bring in our guest, and then we'll chat a little bit as we're sharing. But we have a special guest today, Mr. Nevels out of Texas, and I don't even want to tell anything about his story, his school, but here's the title. He was a martial arts school owner who joined Elite just to come to the Supershow a year later to quit MAIA Elite. And so I want to bring him on and let him share his thoughts on that. So let's bring him up just so we can chat.
Is this the first time you saw him since he quit?
Yeah, I haven't seen him since. Yeah.
Hello, gentlemen. How are y'all?
Mr. Nevels, we want to talk about. I want to know. I'm kidding.
I'm just a quitter. What can I say? So,
sir, how are you? As people are getting on and we're getting in the groups there, how's everything? You guys are having some record heat from what I saw in the news, or Dallas is.
It's a little warm. It's a little toasty. The end is coming to coming to a close here real soon. So 80 degrees next week. So I am excited. But yeah, we're 106 today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Unbelievable. So let's just talk real quick. So your style, Taekwondo school owner in Coppell,
Texas, right next to DFW Airport.
So right there. So what is Coppell like? It's a suburb of Dallas, then, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So yeah, it's about 20 miles from downtown Dallas. It's got about 40,000 people there, 13 square miles. So we're kind of packed in here tight. So it's not a big community, but been open for 13 years now. We've been in business. So it's been an incredible blessing and incredible ride. So we're excited.
And we have a thing here from Mr. Brian Negron.
I am a Cowboys fan. I bring the haters on. That's fine. I'm used to it. They just fuel my soul. That's fine.
Ernie's a big Cowboys fan as well.
You know, Ernie is a huge Cowboys fan. You know, him and my wife talk about just what a big Cowboys fan he is all the time. So
yes, he is. Yeah, there's his response right there. Cowboys.
Boo. Oh, Ernie looking sharp in that photo. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was taken last year.
Oh, I can see the resemblance. He looks
at
great.
Our work formal. Anyway, so thanks for being here, sir. Mr. Tassoul, this is Mr. Nevels. I don't know.
I met him once.
Yeah.
Big fan, sir. Big fan.
Yeah. Right before he quit. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, I see people are chiming in. So listen, we're having a lot of laughs and a lot of fun, but Mr. Nevels was somebody who joined the MAIA Elite consulting program. How many years ago was that?
Oh, I think it was right about 9 years ago, I believe. It was, yeah.
Okay, so about 9 years ago, he signed up for MAIA Elite Consulting. Only a year later to want to go back to the Supershow to quit MAIA Elite. And I thought it would be good for anyone that watches this in the industry to hear, why did he join? Number one, why did you join MAIA Elite? Number two, why after a year did you come back to quit MAIA Elite? And what was the thought process and what has gone on since? So first, before we start, 9 years ago, you were running one location in Texas, Taekwondo school. Mm-hmm. What were you doing in that? So that was probably 4 years into your business?
Yeah, it was. That's exactly right. We opened in 2010. So yeah, it was 2014. Had a good friend that was asked to present at the Supershow. So just, Amanda and I, my wife, we were like, you know what, we've heard about the Supershow. We should go check it out, and just kind of see what it's all about. And that was really our sole purpose, was just to go support our friend who was presenting that year, and just to kind of see what all the talk was about, because I'd heard about it for many years.
And what was your school doing at the time?
So we had about 300 students. We had just done a big trial push or something. So we had I don't know, 40, 50 trials at that time. So 300 students, several trials, and we're doing about 30,000, 31 a month, which at that time I was like, man, we're crushing it, making 30,000 a month. I got all my bills paid, I'm feeling pretty good about that. So, yeah.
So I want to just pause to get some of the people that are watching. Is there anybody here that's watching that would love to have 300 students right now, doing 30,000 a month? I mean, it's just, yes, I would love that, or yes, I would like the students, but I'd like to be doing more or money or all of the above. Just put a comment in. I'm just curious because, again, 9 years ago, he was doing 300 students, 30,000. So you go to the Supershow. And when you went to the Supershow, did you sit in on a seminar or a session, or how did you hear about MAIA Elite?
Sure did. So back at that time, there was something called the Success Seminar. So it was just something, it was kind of advertised hey, here's an intro into kind of what MAIA was about and, some things to look out for your, for your school and stuff. And I learned about some concepts I'd really never learned before and about integrated sales and, different ways to price programs and stuff like that. Just, I'd never heard any of this stuff before. The only thing I'd ever taught was, you do a monthly price, somebody signs up. I think we were doing $129 a month or something like that, and it was just a monthly membership. And so we had never been taught or shown any other way to do that. And it was fascinating to me. We're like, wow, there's all these different ways to run your business that I didn't even know existed. And so I really felt I don't know, my initial feeling was I felt kind of ignorant in the sense that I just didn't know what else was out there. And it was just opening up a new world.
So, and then what did you do? You talked to your wife and you said, we want to try MAIA Elite. Who'd you talk to? Myself, Mr. Tassoul, or
yeah. Actually, that was the very first time I met you, sir, was at that seminar. So it was, I think it's something hey, if you have got any questions afterwards or anything like that, come see us over here. And so my wife and I went over there and, we introduced ourselves and kind of gave you our stats and stuff because we were kind of blown away about something that you said. It was, I think you asked, who makes, who has this many students, who makes this much money and stuff. And then it was something along the lines of, well, what if I told you that you were underperforming, and you could make 50, 60,000 a month? And I looked at my wife and I was like, what? How is that even possible? And I didn't even understand how that was even possible at that point because, I knew at that point, we were doing well for what we knew and what we were around. And, I don't want to sound disrespectful to my peers at the time, but we were doing well amongst our peers. And I thought that, we were doing great. And so it was kind of one of those things, you don't know what you don't know. And when I heard you say that, of course we're like, wait, what are we doing wrong? Or what can we be doing better? And that's when I met you. And you were you started asking questions. And it was okay, how many students do you have? And I said 300 students. He's and you were so you're making what, 50, 60,000? I was no, sir. No, we're making about 30. And you were oh, okay, well, we could help you with that. And that's all it was, is we could help you with that. And that was it. And of course I was okay, I want to know more.
Okay. So, and Taz, if there's any questions, jump in. I'm kind of getting them down the path here of where we're at. Do you have anything right out of the gate?
Well, I think it's interesting because, to your point, right. And we see this with clients today, even that, they're doing what they think is well. And by the way, by all stretches of the stretches, they are doing well, right? Comparatively in the industry. But you said it, you don't know what you don't know. And I think for a lot of people, look, I'll tell you my situation. I joined because of a scarcity mindset and because of the pain that I was in because we were not doing well versus, hey, we're doing okay. I think it's harder for someone to pull the trigger to say yes, to go and get consulting, coaching, right, and want to be better when you're already doing well, as opposed to, look, I don't have any other options, so yeah, I'll do whatever you tell me to do and I'll just do it. So, kudos to you for having an open mind at that time. and being willing to learn and learn new ways and new things and new opportunities. That's awesome.
I definitely agree with what you mean, and I'll tell you, I think the next part of the story kind of leans into what exactly you're talking about here. So, but
okay,
yeah,
let's get there. So now you join the Elite program. We start working together, and what happens over that year that you're doing or not doing to make you decide and talk with your wife that I think we're going to quit MAIA Elite?
yeah. So, we actually had the good fortune of having you as our consultant, Mr. Metzger, and and everything that was kind of talked about, and said, hey, this is what the program is about. I got to give it up to you. You delivered that. We got calls. We were coached on, hey, here's some things to think about. Here's some things to consider. There were some pricing structure adjustments that you suggested. There was some schedule change adjustments that you were suggesting that we do. And I think it was our comfort level. And I really think that Mr. Tassoul really nailed it. Like, we were doing all right, we felt pretty good. And we felt like the changes that you were asking us to do were really going to rock the boat. And I think it was really had to do with our comfort level. Like, we were scared because we were comfortable. And I think, as Mr. Tassoul said, like, when you're uncomfortable, it's easy to make decisions because you're trying to get yourself out of that situation. So what we did was we made very small adjustments. Like, we tried some of the event things that you suggested. We were doing well getting out in the community, but a couple of suggestions that you made, we took that to the next level, and we did see some modest improvements. Don't get me wrong. We started hitting like 35 a month. Every now and then we'd creep up and close to 40 and stuff. And every now and then we do like a big event that you would suggest, and we'd pop like maybe 45 or something like that. We would hit those little, like, man, we're really starting to see some improvements. But we didn't see the big jumps that you were talking about in that success seminar. And I think that's what began to frustrate us. And I'll just kind of call it out. There is a fee associated with MAIA Elite, and we felt like we weren't getting the value for our money. But because the money that we were paying, and we were like, well, is this really worth it? Like, it's really not adding up to us for us to continue to pay this fee, because we were kind of like, well, we could have just figured this stuff out anyway. And we ignored the big changes that you were suggesting that we do.
Sorry,
and
I need to mute Mr. Nevels quick. How do you mute him?
Great. Here we go. I'm feeding the beast. Here we go. But
right. No, I hear you. So but here's what's interesting. Let's pause a minute. Tass, we talk about this because this happens with clients. So it's interesting, Mr. Nevels, and I want to call this out, right? And Mr. Manili is on. He just said similar, very similar to what I went through. But here's the thing. From our perspective, you have a school that's kind of been doing 30. We creep up to 35 a month, and then close to 40, and then on certain events, 45,000. Well, 30 to 45 is a $15,000 like hit, and 5,000 a month, when the Elite program is 1/5 the expense at $1,000 a month. I'm not here to sell people, but still there would be a perception like, I just don't think the value's there, even though it's a huge return on investment, a 5x to 10x to 15x return on the investment. But the psyche still says, I don't know if the value is there. It's interesting how the mindset is on stuff like that. So I hear you.
Yeah. And here's the thing is, like, what we started to feel was like, well, the things that you're teaching us, like, they're kind of common sense stuff that we really weren't doing. So, we've done it for a year. We have it in our brain now. And I think we're good, so like, we don't see the value in continuing to pay the money to be in the Elite program. So, a year went by. I will say that I think that we got off several phone calls where you might have been more than frustrated with us because you saw the potential that we had. And it was, I just had this imagination of you hanging up and you just beating your head against the wall. Like, what is wrong with these people? So, but the Super Show came around in 2015, and I tell you what, Amanda and I, we sat down, we had a real serious talk, and we were like, is this something that we want to do? We wanted to go back to the Super Show because we enjoyed that event. And we knew that we picked up stuff from the Super Show. And so we're like, well, we want to go back, and we want, we'd met some people at that time, and, the networking was a benefit of MAIA Elite that I really didn't even put that much value in. And now I realize how huge it is. But it was one of those things where, like, you know what, I think we've learned what we need to learn. We're going to hang it up. And we went to that Supershow in 2015 to meet with you and just say, you know what, I just don't think this is for us. I don't think this is going to work out.
And what happened?
Well, I'll never forget. So we were at the MAIA booth, and you were there, and Amanda and I come up, and we're like, yes, sir, we want to talk about, how many times have we heard that talk from a parent, or the student, they're like,
take a break.
Yeah, we're going to take a break,
We're like, Mr. Manili, you guys are awesome, but I just don't see the value. We appreciate it.
Yeah. But the thing was, so we went to the booth and we started talking to you, and I'll never forget. So we're starting, we go into the song and dance that we all hear, right? And it was just like, yeah, we're really not clicking in. And I just remember you were just like, all right, stop. Like, you haven't even done it. You haven't even tried it. Like, and I remember you saying this is like, how do you know that what I'm telling you works if you don't try it? And I remember that hit us like really hard. It was just very impactful.
For the audience, Mr. Nevels, for the audience, because you had mentioned you made some incremental changes. You did the events, you got out in the community, you did this. But what we were talking about was like the schedule, the systemized schedule, the pricing structure, I'm going to call it, it's controversial, but the upgrade programs, the way we define how to do an upgrade program. Mm-hmm. And there's people in the industry that say, I don't do upgrades, don't need upgrades. But I don't think they understand how we do an upgrade as a menu option, as an option for the client to go above and beyond our core program. I'm not going to get into all that. But anyway, you really didn't want to implement any of that because you had that same mentality.
You're absolutely, like, you just nailed it right there. I mean, I thought upgrade was a bad word. It really did. It was just something that, and I had the mindset of, why would I force somebody to pay extra to be a part of my program? And that's not it at all. And it was really a mindset thing. And so I'll never forget, you just said, I just want you to do one thing. And you said, go back to your school, do the four-tier pricing structure that you had told us many, many months ago. You were like, just do it for 3 months. That's all I'm asking. If it's terrible and it's awful, if it doesn't work, just go back the way you were doing. We'll cancel the membership. It is done. And you were like, just go back and try it. And that's all you said. And it was just like, that's all I want you to do. Don't do anything else but that. And so, I think Amanda and I talked about it, and we went back to you at the booth, and we're like, okay, we're committed. We're going to try it for 3 months, and we're going to give it a shot. But I will tell you, my wife and I, we were we still are, but like, we were a husband and wife team working in one school, and we had very defined roles. I was the chief instructor, and she was the program director. And I've met many people in the industry that have a similar setup, to that. And I promised my wife I wouldn't throw her under the bus, but I do have to tell this part of the story. All right. And this is important. I love you, honey. Please don't hurt me. Okay. But what the problem was is like, and we got to the root of it, is she wasn't comfortable with the 4-tier pricing structure. She was not comfortable with communicating that, explaining the value of that. So we actually made a deal. We swapped roles for 3 months, and she was very qualified to, we had built a team as well. So she's very qualified to go teach classes. That wasn't a big deal. I was still on site. She was still on site, but we switched roles. I became the program director for 3 months, and she became the chief instructor for 3 months. And I got to say, when we did that, and I was able to start showing her the results of making that change, she started to believe in herself. And again, I say this with all the love and respect for my wife. It just took somebody else being there, physically showing her how to do it, or having the confidence to be able to do it, for her to have the confidence to be able to say, you know what, I can do this too. And then we realized finally realized what you were talking about, all those months of us just kind of hemming and hawing and not taking advantage of it. When we put that into practice, it was an instant value add to our business. It was absolutely amazing. And we've been doing it ever since. And that was 2015. So here we are, 8 years later, and we're still running that system plus many other systems that we finally decided, to put trust in you guys and say, like, you know what, we're just going to listen. We're not going to let our own bias or anything hold us back. We're going to listen to people that have been there before. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that we have these, people in the industry that have, blazed a path before us. Well, we don't all have to be trailblazers to be successful. We can, listen to people that have done it. We can listen to their years of collective experience and make a decision to say, you know what, that's the path I want to go. And that's what we did. We just took a different path. And I'm so glad that we decided to take that path, because it was something that not only changed our school, it changed our lifestyle, it changed our team's, path. It changed our students' path. It was revolutionary for our school.
So go ahead, Tass.
Well, I was going to say, let's get you in more trouble with your wife.
Sounds great.
Do you remember? Because you said something that I think you found the solution, which is not common, by the way. Because also we'll see where people will say, okay, well, fine, we'll do it. And when you don't believe in something, you're gonna present it as though you don't believe in it, and then you're gonna make it so it does subconsciously, right? You're gonna make it so it doesn't work, so you can say, see, I told you it didn't work, right? But it's in the presentation. But you said something. Do you remember why she wasn't comfortable doing the pricing structure? I'm just curious.
Well, I think you just nailed it right there. Is she didn't believe in it, and she did not believe that people would, like that they would take advantage of the choices that are presented, because she wouldn't do that. And that was the thing, and I'd heard this before in the coaching. It was, you are not your customer. All you are is you are presenting options to someone, and you're letting them decide what they want. And there's actually power in that. Versus saying, well, I only have one price and this is it. And if this fits, the mold you're comfortable with, great. If it doesn't, get out. Giving people options actually widens your customer base. And I didn't even realize that at the time. But again, that's that ignorance factor again. And I say, I'm trying to use the word ignorance in the correct way, in the sense that I was not personally educated. I did not understand the power of the choices that we were presenting our potential members.
It's so, hold on, Matt, one second. It's so funny. It's so funny because now, right? And you made this comment, like, well, we did a couple things and implemented some of the stuff. And now looking, because you thought the other stuff was difficult. Looking back now, do you believe it was difficult to implement those things? It was all a mindset, right? It was this block that we had, number one. But listen, I got to tell you, I was the same way when I first saw the pricing structure. I remember saying to myself, this goes against everything I've ever been taught. Whoa. This goes against everything I've ever been taught. You don't offer 4 options to people. You don't have a down payment in martial arts. That's for like the car industry, right? And it's initial investments, right? It's not a down payment. And I mean, I looked at that and I'm like, there's no way, because I came from the health club industry where we gave 3 options, right? But when I had this breakthrough and I'm like, oh, like when I understood it, when I finally understood it, and part of that was just like ready, fire, aim, and just do it and see what happens. You become a believer very quickly if you're open-minded and you're willing to present the way it's meant to be presented. And by the way, it's funny that you say that, right? Like, she just wasn't about giving I'm paraphrasing, but it wasn't about giving the options. Yet when we go to a restaurant, they don't just bring out the steak and the sweet potato and say, here you go. That's all that's it. If you don't like it, there's the door, right? Like in every other industry, people get options. And so now, like, you talk about banging your head against the wall. When I talk with a new client, and they're like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I'm like, oh my God, this is the easiest thing in the world. You're enrolling 20 students, 30, doesn't matter how many students you enroll. It's going to 3 to 5x your front end revenue immediately when you do it. And it's just so frustrating. So it's like teaching a martial art technique. You got to find 100 different ways to disguise repetition to try and get them to understand it, because the real believability, right? Everybody who comes to us, I think most everybody comes to us and they really, want more. At the end of the day, they want more students because they believe that's how they're going to generate more revenue, right? Mm-hmm. So show me how to do that. But what they don't realize is their systems are broken and they're only generating X dollars per student in student value. And there's a way to fix that where it's not forced and you're giving people options. So, I mean, kudos to you for being able to switch roles and giving it a try, because I think you, like me, had I not sat down for a quick 20-minute conversation with Metzger and said yes to join Elite, my life, that was a joke, by the way, it was 2.5 hours. But the trajectory of my life wouldn't be the same, right? And sometimes I look back and I'm like, I remember thinking, will we do that? Will we do that? And we do that. Well, I've heard of that. We've done that. But what you don't get is that last 10% and the devil's in the details. And it literally makes all the difference in the dollars that come in. And of course, I'm talking about dollars. I assume everyone's a great martial artist, a great instructor, and that you're there to help your students and have them be their best versions of themselves, right? But when we're talking business, at the end of the day, it is about dollars and cents. And so, kudos to you guys for doing that. And now here you are years later, and, now you have what? How many schools?
We have 3 schools currently. So we've got 750 active between all 3 of them. And I think one of the biggest things about today is I knew that the money that we made, before, it was enough to, support me and my wife, and we could have a couple part-timers. And now I've got people, we're building careers. I've got people that actually have martial arts careers that work for us, and we're able to provide benefits like, vacation, health care, I don't know what else we offer. We offer a bunch of stuff. I don't know, but it's like it's a real business. It's not just something that my wife and I run, and we're making, just enough for us to get by. And we've been able to help people achieve their dreams. Maybe they weren't able to financially be able to afford to open their own school, but they could come work for us. And now they're making a great living doing that. And to me, we talk about taking care of our students and taking them along the path. Well, several of my employees were my students, right? And they had the right mindset and the right, the right demeanor to make this a career. And now they're supporting their families by doing this full time without, the financial burden of going and opening up their own school. So the fact that we've been able to provide that for my team makes me feel like a more empowered owner. And I think that's the biggest takeaway is that, and we're not done growing. I mean, there's definitely growth in our future as well. So I'm so excited for what the future looks like, because we are not done.
Well, Mr. Nevels, what I was going to ask earlier, and not to try to cut off Tass on this, but I wanted people, as you were telling your story, to know, well, where are you today? So you have 3 schools today, 750 active, but Capel, the school you had when you joined Elite that was doing like around 30 grand a month with 300 students. What did you get that school, once you implemented all the systems, what did you get that school doing?
Well, I can tell you this. So that first month that we implemented, and I have my numbers right here. So we had a good month before. I told you we'd kind of crept up to that 40 level. So we had done, in the month of June, we did almost 41,000. In July, right after the Super Show, so we went to the Super Show, we came back. That next month, we did almost 51,000 in 1 month, because we implemented the price structure that we were just talking about. After that, August, almost 56,000. September, 54,000. And it just kept going on that. It was literally, we just added 10 grand to our gross, and it didn't slow down from there. So, I mean, there were instant results. And I think that's the big thing, was that our own fear was letting us get in the way of our success. And so that I think it was probably about, I don't know, $10,000, $12,000 that we had paid in our Elite membership or whatever. We earned it back in 1 month. And I sat there for a year and I thought, we're just wasting money. I earned it back in 1 month. And I was just like, I'm an idiot. I should have just been doing this the whole time.
Yeah, well, there's a couple things. Tass, I'm going to call it out. Tass has a lot of new clients that have 250 plus students, 300 students. He also happens, ironically, to have a lot of those clients that are where you're at, that don't buy into the pricing structure, and they have whatever obstacles, right? The thing is you, and this is what people don't realize, Well, let me ask you this question before I even say what they don't realize. When you implemented the pricing structure, how many of your current student base or people or students got upset with that pricing structure or complained about it?
All of 0 people.
Okay. Very
And
good.
just for clarity, so no one gets any ideas here, you don't go back and implement this to your existing people and start doing. You do this for new people moving forward. Just to be 100% clear, okay?
Yep.
Correct. And the point I want to make is that one tweak jumped you about 10,000 a month within 1 month of doing, right? And so I'm saying to Tass's clients, who Tass can then go back and tag all these people or whoever he wants, and, right? That it goes back to, it's all in our own heads. Parents, it was in your head. You know, it was in a Miss Nevels' head, right? Like, I don't know, people aren't going to like this, you know, and we're not going to do these options. It's confusing, or it's a lot of money to ask for up front, or it's this, or it's that. At the end of the day, just let them decide. Let them decide. And everybody's happy. You just said nobody was upset about the pricing structure that came in. Nobody said, well, this is ridiculous, or nobody. And it's the same amount of people you would have enrolled that month. Except the company made an extra $10,000 that month, and every month thereafter, and now we're at 3 locations. It's so powerful. The message here is so powerful, and the message is not, people, you know, go implement pricing structure, right? The message here is, we say it all the time, you don't know what you don't know, and if you really want to be successful, stop coming up with all the reasons why you can't do something, and start asking yourself, why can't I do something? And you said trailblazers, whatever you want to call it. But if this model works for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of schools, not pricing structure, but the whole system, why would it not work for you? And then people will come back and say, well, it'll work for me, but I'm not a McDojo. I'm not going to water down my system. I'm not going to nickel and dime my parents. Did you ever get that feeling at all that you were nickel and diming people, or just milking them for money, or did you lose quality of your classes or your art?
No. And here's what I'll say is, it actually, it motivated me as an owner to work harder to offer even more. Like, I think that's the best way to say it. Is my program is still the same as it was 15 years ago, 13 years ago, just in terms of, you know, like our system, like our belt system and the way that we train people and the methodology and stuff, all of that is the same. And it honestly, it's probably gotten better, just in the sense that I've expanded my community and I'm learning from more martial artists, because I kind of mentioned earlier about the networking piece. The martial artists that I surround myself with now are, I surrounded myself with good martial artists before. All I did was just expand my network. And so I have a larger network all the way around the country, to where I can, learn things, take things from people, and just make them better. And so that's all I did. Was I made more money. I made my program better. I offered more to my students. What's not to like about that?
100%. I mean, but one more thing here, and Tass knows this. So if everybody agrees with what I'm saying, Tass said it twice to you. He said, kudos to you because of how you switched roles. People don't want to do the work. People don't want to switch roles. People don't want to try to learn something new. And that's the bottom line too. So if you do believe it, you just don't want to put the work in to do it. And you guys, by the way, for your wife to jump out of an office onto a floor, for you to jump off a floor into the office, to really give it a fair shot, takes a lot of commitment, because you're not in this business because you want to work in an office behind a desk. You're in this business because you want to do martial arts, but you did what you had to do to really give it a fair shot. And is it safe to say it's changed your life?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we would not be on the trajectory that we are today. I mean, and not only did it allow us to grow our business, to 3 locations. I mean, our school is doing better than ever. I mean, we're averaging, look at last year, we averaged 62,000 a month. I mean, in that location, we averaged on that. And
just the one location, yeah.
Just that one location, that original Coppell.
And I want to be clear, you're not doing an after-school pickup program or buses or anything like that.
No. We don't do summer camp during the summer. We don't do after school. That is strictly evening martial arts. I mean, and that's it. It's
Are you still charging $400 a month like we told you to do?
500, sir. 500.
You did go up, yeah, because inflation.
Yeah, I mean, it's hitting me too. No, I mean, I have, for my original pricing, I think we've raised our price like $20 or $30 or something like that. Like, over a 10 years or a 13-year span. I'll maybe get the number right of how long I've been open here pretty soon. I said 15 and 10. But I mean, that's the thing is, like, we're not charging, out the rear or anything like that. It's just, it's pretty standard pricing in our area. And I feel good about it.
So I remember this is a conversation I had, Mr. Nevels. So after he had pricing structure implemented, then he had an upgrade program, but that class happened to be on Saturdays, and it was successful, right? And we always say this, like, yes, you can have success, but you're never going to maximize your success by having an upgrade program offered just on a Saturday, because there's just a group of people that aren't going to come to Saturday classes. So we started working through schedule, and I remember, like, okay, and you launched the schedule, and at that time you were at 400 plus students, and you launched the schedule. I remember getting a phone call. He's like, Mr. Tassoul, we just launched a schedule and people are complaining. He goes, and I just think we got to get it switched back. He's like, we're going to redo it. I said, well, hold on. I think he might have said everyone's complaining. It's the classic everyone's complaining, right? I said, well, Mr. Nevels, how many people have come to your office and complained about the schedule? He said, I don't know, like 8, maybe 10. I said, okay, so you're going to go back to the other schedule and now piss off 400 students, but make the 10 people happy. And he's like, well, no, that's probably not a good idea. I said, let's just wait a week or 2 weeks. Let's work with them. Let's let things settle in. And I think it was literally a few days later, you called me back and you're like, hey, everything's fine. We worked through it. Everybody's good. There's no challenges. Because that's a school that was 400 plus at the time, right? Well, of course, schedule is one of those things. Of course, when you make a schedule change, right, we all get consumed that everybody's going to be upset. Well, everybody in Mr. Nevels' case was 8 of 400 students. So that's another mindset problem that we have when we're doing adjustments and enhancements in our school is like, well, how is this going to affect everybody, right? And if once we get past these things, and then again, I'm not selling it, but this is what Core 4 is all about, right? It's all about your pricing structure, your programs you offer, your schedule, and how to do mass intros or mass enrollments. Once you have the foundation set, the core set, that it's going to turn you a higher student value, then we go out and say, okay, now let's start marketing, let's start putting new people in. Because here's the thing, and Metzger said earlier, but if I'm working with a client and they don't want to do pricing structure, they don't want to do upgrades, they're going to do what you did. Well, we're going to add some special events, and we're going to do a parent night out. Listen to me, like, speak like a client. But we're going to do these few things, and then the needle's not going to move. But I really want to generate $10,000 more a month. But my student value is 140. Okay, great. Well, if you're not doing any pricing structure, you're not going to do upgrades, and we're only going to do a few things, don't spend the money on consulting. Go spend it and go get 100 more students or 80 more students at $140 student value. You can't have it both ways, right? Like, either you need to go enroll more students at your current student value, or you need to generate more revenue from the students that you have because it's their choice and their option, and you're not forcing it. And that's the part. It's like, I'm gonna call it out. Like when we tell our team sometimes, look, we don't want you working more than 40 hours, but you also need to do whatever it takes to get the job done. Well, they always tune out after we don't want you to work more than 40 hours. You forget the other part, right? It's the same thing with clients. It can happen, right? They tune out that second part, and I think you've got to be in a position. And I'm no different. Like, I'm going through some stuff right now, and that's why I have Metzger, right? You got to have a coach, because in the martial arts industry, look, maybe it's just that we're not employable, right? Because we decided to open our own business and we don't want to be employed. So we become our own boss, right? And I think, you hear, and I forget the book, but we had an entrepreneurial seizure. We're like, oh, I'm just going to do martial arts. And we we gave ourselves a job as opposed to creating a career and a business for ourselves. And it's not easy. And most of us will not push ourselves to make the hard decisions. And this is where a coach and a mentor comes in, because they don't have a clouded vision. They don't have the black belt, eyes, the tunnel vision, the ad slicks back in the day where the guy's doing the jumping back kick and the other guy's folded over and every martial artist goes, man, that's so cool. And the people that are not martial artists be like, I wouldn't want to get kicked by that guy, right? So it's two different perspectives. And when you can get an outside perspective of things, and sometimes, I find myself, right? Even there's certain things that are hard, right? That are hard. And because everyone's heart is a little bit different. And we can want to resist, right? But if you listen, if you're open-minded, and eventually you can get to where you make that breakthrough, that's the important thing. But I think for a lot of us, it's hard to get there on our own, which is why we need the coaching and why we need the mentorship,
Yeah. I want to just say this. What's interesting too, and this is for any elite member watching this, right? Call it a sale or call it a retention pitch or whatever it is, but you were in a year, you were ready to hang it up and quit. And for whatever reason or whatever I said, when I said, look, you're just not implementing everything the way you need to. You need to stay the course, implement this, give it another 3 months. And here we are 9 years later, and you're still in the program. And the thing is one of the things that we do at Elite, because of the clients, is we're always evolving and learning how to become better. And it may just be 1 more month before a light bulb goes off at the next event, at the next seminar, in the next webinar or meeting, that you get something that's going to take your business to the next level. And at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, is it worth the fee or the investment that I pay for MAIA to have that or get that? Now, if you're in MAIA and you jumped $20,000, $30,000 a month, for me and the successful mindset, I believe, is I'll pay $1,000 a month all day, every day, if I'm doing 20 or 30 more, just to be around what you said, expanding my network of people, getting the relationships, being around like-minded individuals that are committed to growth and success, that will motivate you more than even the coaches will. Just by hearing you right now, Mr. Nevels, Mr. Hanzu chimed in and said, I needed to hear this today. Well, Mr. Hanzu hears us as much as you hear us, but he needed to hear this today. Coming from somebody else that lived it like yourself, that had the mental blocks, that had the struggle or so-called struggle of we're not getting to where we thought we'd get, right? And then all of a sudden, hearing that you put your head down, you said, we're going to commit and we're going to execute this stuff. And then that changed the trajectory of your lives and your students' lives that became staff members that actually are working in a career. So it's so powerful. And this is why, at our next Elite event, as I've said, we're doing this networking thing, with hors d'oeuvres, and because this networking, you can talk to one other school owner that you can relate to that can inspire you to go ahead and do that, whatever that is. Open up that next location. Start doing this upgrade program the way we do it. Implement a pricing structure. Look at the schedule. Offer this kind of a customer service to our customers. Whatever it is, hearing it from consultants all the time, I think, is powerful. And I always tell Tass this. Someone like yourself, Mr. Nevels, who's been in for 9 years, you thought after 1 year, we already know it, right? Well, after 9 years, you probably do know it, but you're not paying for, right now, if we had to put things in order, you don't pay for education as much as you pay for accountability and networking, right? And then all of a sudden, there'll be something new we're going to do that's a golden nugget in the educational department that will tweak something just a little bit that'll take it up. But just being around that network of people and having the accountability, like Tass said, I'm still trying to hold him accountable. I got people that hold me accountable. That in itself is worth its weight in gold, and that's what we try to do. And as you said, Mr. Nevels, in the beginning, even when you were ready to quit, you said I was getting frustrated. Well, why was I getting frustrated? Because I think the entire MAIA team cares first and foremost about making sure we get the job done for the client.
Mhm.
And when we see what you're capable of doing, yes, I've banged my head many times on the wall, not just from you guys.
Well, and I do have to say this, one of the reasons why we stay, it's not the only reason, but kind of what you're saying about, the clients, I have my own team members that I give the same message that you guys give to me, I'm giving to my team members. And so having events where I've been able to bring my team members out and hear other people in the industry, let them network with people, let them meet peers from other, martial arts schools around the country, that has also reinforced our internal training as well. So not only is there value for me personally in education and networking and accountability, my team is also getting those results as well now. And, I think that goes to the commitment of, I've got to make sure I continue to invest in their continuing education. So that way, I mean, to be very honest, I love teaching martial arts, but we have 3 schools. I can't be on the floor at each location. So I've got to make sure I've got a team that can perform at a high level and will perform to my personal standards, let alone, standards of our peers that we have. I want to give them the best opportunity to be successful that they can. So the fact that, my events, they have, business seminars, they have tracks for staff members, for instructors, program directors. We've taken advantage of all of that. And my team has personally grown from being a part of those things. Because I know they don't listen to me all the time. All right. Just like you said, it's like talking to your kids all the time. Then the karate instructor says, hey, go clean up your room. And they're like, yes, sir. And they go do it. And they're like,
well, here's something I want to say to that. And I want Tass to chime in on this. Tass, what did you think when I called you a few years ago? Tass was a new consultant. He was starting to consult. I was Tass's consultant, and I called him and I said, hey, I'm going to pay you. I'm going to pay for MAIA Elite. I'm going to pay you to consult one of my schools. And what did you think when I said that?
I laughed. I said, dude, what are you talking about? I mean, why would you do that? You guys, everyone's plugged in and everyone's doing, and the answer was because, what, this particular, school and team member has been around since they were, a kid. Right. And you develop parent ears or whatever you want to call it. And I was going to say to this, this is human nature, right? Like I remember when I was a kid, and I say kid, 16, 17 years old, and I want to buy a motorcycle. My dad's like, Shane, that's a bad idea. You're in Wisconsin. I mean, you're going to drive the thing for like 3 months of the year. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I'm going to so I bought a motorcycle. Then my instructor says, why would you buy a motorcycle? You're in Wisconsin. You can only drive it for like 3 or 4 months out of the year. I sold the motorcycle. My dad says, well, why'd you sell the motorcycle? Well, because my instructor said it was really a bad investment because you can only drive it for 3 or 4. I mean, it's you hear things differently from different people, right? And which, to your point, Mr. Nevels, this is why you bring your team. They're maybe hear it from a consultant. Maybe they hear it from somebody at dinner. They hear something a little bit different, or at the networking event, right? And I heard this a long time ago, and it makes sense. There's only one thing worse than a staff member leaving, and that's keeping an untrained staff member. And I thought that was, that spoke volumes, right? So it's important to make sure that our team is always being educated. And sometimes we're not the only voice that needs to be heard, right? And in the case of, Metzger's, school, I think he came back to you and said, he says all the same stuff you do, but he just says it differently, I think is the response he gave you, right?
Right, that's right. And the school started growing. And I love Elite so much that I paid for Elite. I became a member. I mean, so I
only the founder, but a member too.
That's right.
That's the hair club.
I'm in a couple of those clubs. But no, listen, Mr. Nevels, unbelievable story. I hope it resonated with some of the current Elite members and some of the non-Elite members and some of the people that may be watching that don't even believe they like MAIA or, don't believe in whatever we're doing, just to open your mind a little bit and understand that if you're not where you want to be, there's no excuse. I mean, there's no excuse. It's you that's holding yourself back. You don't have to join MAIA Elite, but there are answers out there and systems out there that can make your business, your students, your staff members change their lives forever. And that's what we are committed to. I can only speak for ourselves.
Well, and to your point, like what got you to where you are isn't going to get you to where you want to go. And there's only one thing harder than being open-minded and putting new systems in place to get your school to grow. And that's staying in the same place that you've been and never growing. That's actually harder, because it's just that gets really boring after a long period of time to not experience growth. And this is where people really start to lose belief in themselves. They go to a booth event. We handed out 1,000 flyers and we had 2 phone calls. See, I told you booth events don't work. So guess what you stop doing? You stop doing booth events, right? You stop doing all the things because you didn't have success and you had these visions of grandeur and you just didn't know how to make it work. And because it didn't work, your belief is they don't work. But there is a way to make those things work. And, it's not coming from 1 or 2 of us, right? It's years and years and countless clients that we've learned from that can really help. So either choose to live in the suck or choose to live in the suck for a moment and then get yourself to the next level, right? That's the key.
Well, and I do want to put out there that if I'm getting paid all of $0 to appear on your show, I really wish you would work on your appearance fee a little bit. Yeah. But if anybody has any questions, any specific questions about my story or my MAIA Elite journey, I'm happy to answer them. Connect with me on Facebook or Instagram, and I'm happy to connect with you. We can get on a phone call, and I'm happy to share, a more personal version of my story and get into more details about, the bumps along the way. It's not, I do want to make sure I say this. It's not a perfect path up. It's these hills and valleys and stuff. But when you have a team around you that can kind of hold your hand and support you in those rough times, that's how we get out of those valleys and we start hitting those mountaintops of success. And so happy to share my personal journey, one-on-one, if anyone has any questions. I am not paid by MAIA or anything like that. I just know what it's done for me and my family and my team and my organization. And I would wish that success to anyone out there. So if I can be of assistance, I'm happy to do it.
And I want to say one thing, because I don't want to come out of context. But when I said elite, you're getting the accountability and the networking, but also it's constant education, because you went from 1 school to 2 schools to 3 schools to buying a school, and we're doing a specific seminar at the next event because you all requested, how do we do culture and accountability, and managing multiple locations. So there is, you hit levels where you do need to get the next level of education. So it is always there. But at the end of the day, accountability is the biggest thing, because you had the education for the first year, but we didn't execute, right? And accountability to execute is big. And I always say this, and this you're proof. We can't do it for you. And for that first year, I was getting frustrated because I couldn't do it for you, and you guys were afraid to take action. And then all of a sudden you said, okay, we're going to try this one thing full on. And that gave you enough belief to start executing all the other things, which lucky for you, because not many people do that. They just bail. They just jump out because it reinforces what they were doubting. I doubt this is going to work. Try it. It's not working. We're going to go ahead and cancel. It's just not working. I'm going to cancel.
Well, what I will say to that is I think that there was a level of trust that was established. I didn't know if we were fully bought in and stuff, and we didn't have that trust. By committing to just that one small aspect of the entire systems that that we run, that showed us that we could trust you guys. And Metz, it showed us that we could really trust and believe in you. And then it's been 9 years, and there's never been a moment. Now you've told me some harsh realities that maybe I didn't want to hear, but you've never lied to me. You've never steered me wrong, and you've always told me the truth. And all that, even though I didn't want to hear it, all it did was just reinforce the trust that we built over nearly a decade. And I'm glad that we did it, because we're in such a better place than we were at that time. So if I could say anything to anybody out there listening is that you got to try it. You got to make sure I can't tell you to trust MAIA Elite. You've got to experience it for yourself, but you do have to put yourself out there a little bit. And when you put yourself out there, when you realize what these guys are saying is, oh, wow, this is true. And this does work. But when you commit 100%, if you only commit halfway or just a small amount, it's not going to be effective. Commit fully, listen to what they say, and build your own trust. When you build your own trust, that's going to be that springboard to success.
Well, listen, I hope again that you've inspired, because that's what we do it for. And we love, I mean, you're on this show because you invested in yourself again, and you flew in last week to spend a couple days here to sit in on manager trainings and go to some of our locations, because how you can get better and more systemized with your multiple schools. You invested in, when we sat down in the conference room and just getting reminded of your journey and your story, I was like, you need to come on the show, because I think that would be powerful for people in the industry to hear. And now it's like, we just got to get people to watch and listen to your story, because it's just powerful. By the way, it's an infomercial for MAIA Elite, but what it is it's an infomercial to go find somebody, because they will help you. We got to professionalize our industry. Selfishly, I want to professionalize our industry and make it an elite business, selfishly, because it'll make us all look better,
Professional Tassoul. We got to be professional.
Well, people are calling from Elite. They want to sign up like left and right. So I got to get these people signed up.
Right. It's working. Anyway, Mr. Nevels, thank you for.
Oh, you want to cancel like Mr. Nevels did? Okay, I'll be right with you. Only teasing. Hey, appreciate you, man. Congratulations to all your success and your continued success. And yeah, definitely an inspiration for others, man. Appreciate you.
And gentlemen, thank y'all so much for having me on the show. I mean, if you want to change it to Metzger Tassoul Nevels Show, I'm up for that. We're going to have to increase the
Not as catchy.
Fee. All right. I think it's pretty good. It sounds great to me.
Maybe it should be Nevels Tassoul Mets Show.
There you go. There you go.
No, thank you for sharing, man. I see some of the comments, and you definitely inspired at least some of the current people, right, and just give everybody a little bit more of a push, and that's what it's about.
Right on. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you, guys.